Well, this has been a bad week.
Yeah. You've definitely had a whirlwind week.
Fuck. Yeah, for those not in the southwestern Pennsylvania area, we had like a 5-minute storm blow through last week, and it just all the power went out.
Yeah, just like destroyed everything.
My power was out for 3 fucking days, and it was just one tree fell on the line up the street, and they just left it there for 3 days. So that was fun. And I wouldn't even mind so much not having the power. Because you asked me, like, well, what about your food in the fridge?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, fortunately, I can't afford to actually stock my fridge all the time. So I don't ever have enough food to worry about.
Yeah.
I just put like the 3 things I can eat in the cooler with ice and I'm good. But my problem is I have well water, so no water when there's no power. The well pump doesn't work. So that sucked, having to piss outside every day. And
yeah, that's what I thought was just like, oh, the fucking the toilet. Like,
yeah, it's like,
you know what you should do? Like at my house, we have one of those like big gallon, like a huge like multi-gallon thing, like water. So you could at least do like, you could like, wet rags to wash your face or to pour in the back of the, the back of the tank,
I just use the 5-gallon spring waters.
Okay.
So I'll still able to shower and stuff. But the other problem rises is I have a sewer grinder that's grinds up the sewage and sends it up to the sewage line or whatever. When the power's out, that also doesn't work. So I can't. Very minimal stuff goes down the drain because at some point I would think that would overflow. Or it's right next to my deck. I don't want that to fucking bubble up with shit.
Right.
Which I don't know if you heard, but the neighbors since yesterday morning, their sewer grinder alarm's been going off non-fucking stop. But apparently they don't know how to silence it. Mine has a button. If it goes off, you can silence it. You call the sewage company, they come and fix it almost immediately. So I don't know maybe they didn't hear it. I don't know. They're pretty old, but still, it's like, goddamn. It's like, I was like, Jesus, shut it the fuck up. So that's been an annoyance, but I got power now. We were able to do I really thought we weren't going to do the podcast.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Yeah, because everything I was hearing for things was like 5 to 7 days. So.
Yeah, when they finally gave an alert, it was like, it'll be on by the 5th. Like, May 5th. Awesome. So we were able to do this episode. Brought to you by Squarespace. No. Squarespace still a thing, probably. I think that's all the I did some writing this week. Very minimal.
I was gonna say like it would have to be by hand because you wouldn't, depending on how much your laptop was charged.
I didn't use a laptop at all. Well, I can use my phone. That's what I normally do my first drafts anymore. Anyways, on my phone. Why am I fading? What the fuck? That's another thing we worried about. Is the mixer gonna fuck? Is the mixer gonna be dead? Yep.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Jeez, come on. Fuck. That's the thing. I got people who want to be guests on the show, but can't because the fucking mixer's dying, and then the power outage fucking fried it. Hello. Fuck me. Yeah, so I worried the power outage fucked up the mixer, and it appears it has.
Yeah.
The mixer appears to be on the fritz.
Again. It was doing good there for a while.
We had a couple of months where I was like, hey, maybe we can have guests back. But that's the thing. I have the other channels off. It's like the guest channel. I haven't tried that need a new one, but I can't afford it because every time I have to every month I've been making some kind of big expense. Something comes up. So I'm glad because when we did get the power back, the water wasn't working. And I was like, oh, no, because we never had power outage that long.
Right.
Since I moved in here. And I was like, oh, great, the well pump fucking burnt out, and that's going to be $5,000 to fix. But it wasn't the well pump, it was the pressure gauge, which I figured out.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I know nothing about those, but I was able to figure out. What was I looking up? Fuck.
I don't know. You didn't.
Oh, I think I was looking up something. I don't know. But I was able to get some reading done, because that's all I could really do in the dark, because I had my book light still worked. I started reading Natsume Soseki's The Gate, which actually turned out to be the perfect read because it's one of those books. It's just about like accepting things as they are and just like it's very calm. Yeah, it's a very calm book. It's one of those very peaceful books. So it's been nice. Yeah, and it's just about like this couple that in early 1900s Japan who just have each other pretty much, and they're going through struggles, but they're just I'm like, this is very fitting. So I've been enjoying that. Yesterday at work sucked because for once I actually had a day where I literally from 7 to 2 would have maybe done 45 minutes of actual work and could have read the whole novel, written the whole novel, all this shit. And one of my coworkers fucked me and I got a helper. Oh. And it was this old guy that just chain smokes and doesn't stop talking. So I didn't get anything. No reading or anything.
It's like they gave you a helper for no reason, and the helper made it so there was more work and took longer. And
the one time I didn't need a helper. So I was very annoyed by that. But anyway, we are going to be talking about Confederacy of Dunces today. And that's it. It's Free Comic Day, so we're going to probably do a short episode, hopefully.
Well, I mean, and there's only so much to kind of talk about the book.
10 minutes. This is what we get.
Oh.
And we're already halfway through that. No. We'll try to do the book justice. The problem is I read it. I finished a couple weeks ago, so try to watch. You can't find good videos on it. It's just all reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a lot of the books we read, we could watch like essays or like really well done animated essays, like TED Talks and shit on it. But for some reason, this book, which is won the Pulitzer Prize, is just a bunch of old white people talking about it. So whatever. We'll discuss that in a moment. And Spencer has brand new news. You better.
I do?
No, you don't.
I didn't say.
I was hoping you did. You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me, as always, Spencer, the Louisiana. I forgot it. The fuck is your stupid name? I just had it.
Because it was wholesome,
I got it. And with me, as always, Spencer, the Louisiana Labrador Lover Church.
Oh.
Loving Labradors. That's all.
They're good dogs.
It's a kind. I like labs. I would have liked to go with like the Monterey Mongoloid, something. But the book is set in New Orleans, so kind of had to go Louisiana there. Today we are talking about the book of the month, Confederacy.
Confederacy?
The Confederacy.
Of?
Dunces.
This is...
A Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole. Spencer.
Yes.
Is this based on your... There's a white bookmark. I'm looking for that. I have 100 of the same exact bookmark. This book opens up with the line I love. This is from Jonathan Swift. You might know from Gulliver's Travels, which you probably haven't read.
No, but I know. Yeah, I know of. Yeah.
When a true genius appears in the world, you may know him by this sign, that the dunces are all in confederacy against him. That's a very clever title, Confederacy of Dunces. And it does fit. It really, really fucking does. So we'll talk about John Kennedy Toole for a moment. I don't know if you still probably haven't researched him, have you?
Not more than what we talked about. Did you?
Well, I read the introduction.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right.
He explained his whole life.
Yeah.
Did you not read the introduction?
Yeah.
You just forgot it? The introduction was by something Percy. I keep forgetting the guy's fucking name. I want to say Walton. It's not Walton. Wallace? Wally? Walker Percy.
Walker Percy.
Who the fuck is Walker? That's actually a good name for your comic book guy.
Yeah.
Walker.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's neither here nor there. So the brief rundown, because I'm not going to go into it too deep. John Kennedy Toole was a very prestigious young man. He graduated high school at like 16. Wrote his first novel at 16, A Neon Bible, or The Neon Bible. I think it's The Neon Bible, which I might read because it's only like 100-something pages.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You go to the bookstore today. I'll see if it's probably won't be there, but I'll look. It's like a Southern Gothic, I think. So that's an interesting departure from this. It's set in Mississippi in the 1930s, I believe.
And that's just such an awesome title name. Like, just for...
Yeah.
Just by itself.
But John Kennedy Toole became also, I don't know if the record still stands, but I believe the youngest professor, at least maybe just in the college he was at. I forget what college, but he was like the youngest professor in the U.S. or something at the age of 22, I believe.
Yeah.
Became a professor. And he was a very humorous young man, but it clearly had a serious side and some problems because this book is slightly based on him.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, well, wildly outrageous, absurdist, and funny. This book does have themes of isolation that Ignatius, the main character, goes throughout the whole book, and you definitely could overlook that if you never felt that, or if you don't know anything about John Kennedy Toole. But obviously, John Kennedy Toole felt his genius wasn't appreciated until obviously after his death, which he would never know. But he went through some failures of trying to get this book published, and then he ended up taking his own life at the age, I think, 31. He also had a major falling out with his mother. Again, maybe goes along with the book. Some kind of fight with his mother before his death, and like right before his death, I think. She felt very bad about it, shopped the book around for a long time, like 5 years or something. Finally came to this writer who I think was also a professor, Percy. I forget what school he was at, maybe North Carolina or something. And basically kept begging him to read the book and give it a chance. And then she finally came to his office, and he was like, fuck, I'll read the stupid book. I'll read a page, maybe a couple paragraphs, whatever. I'll hate it, and that'll be the end of it, and I'll talk to this lady anymore. And he's like, God damn, this is good, though.
Yeah.
And then he started reading it more, and he's like, oh, wait, this is really good. And then finally he's like, this is fucking great. I got to get it published. And then he shopped it around for a long time, Then finally, it did get published. The critics felt a very certain way about this book, enough to make it get a second publishing. Did a first print run. Usually books like this, they get a print run, doesn't do that well, or nobody really cares that much. And then like a Cormac McCarthy, it's just out of print. This one got a second print run, got some life. Apparently the right eyes got on it, won the fucking Pulitzer Prize, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Especially for this kind of book. Like, fucking goofy. Guy's fucking a glove.
Nonsense.
Yeah. So long story short, if you don't have success in your life, if you end your life, maybe you'll find success.
Yeah.
That's fucking terrible. Like, could you imagine? I mean, he can't because he's dead, but it's like, could you imagine though? It's like, oh, I'll be super famous and have one of the greatest novels ever after I'm dead.
Well, it's not like that's not the first time that's happened.
That happens at Franz Kafka.
Yeah.
He didn't get appreciated till after his death. It's like, yeah, that sucks.
I mean, there's pain, like, was it Picasso or
not Picasso? He was very famous.
Yeah. Forget, but like painters and stuff too. That are
you thinking Van Gogh? Maybe?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Cut off his ear. And,
yeah.
Yeah, there's a few of those, especially painters. It seems like that's a big one. Painters like don't get appreciated till after they're dead because the rich people are like, well, they can't make more, so now the work has value.
Right.
Books are a little different, but we won't get into that too much. But yeah, basically, John Kennedy Toole could have really had a great career as a writer, but he just obviously had some problems that I didn't really go into like what his mental state was beyond the failure. I don't know if it was one of those things. He was so intelligent that he always felt the world didn't understand him.
Like, because I assumed there would be something about like, was it because like he was having trouble getting this published? Did you know that?
I think that's the main thing, but I think it's that he just felt the world didn't understand him, didn't appreciate him.
Yeah,
maybe he was a little pretentious in that regard, but he obviously was a hyper intelligent individual who was putting out works like the Confederacy of Dunces. And if I wrote the Confederacy of Dunces and nobody cared, because that had to be a lot of work going into that. Because it's not, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, it's a funny, weird satire. It's absurd. We could write that part of it, but like all the stuff about the medieval philosophy he incorporates in this book and the themes of isolation and all this shit, and to make it coherent and fucking hilarious. How do you make medieval philosophy funny?
There's so many characters.
Yeah.
And they all coming together by the end and stuff like that to not make it seem like forced or weird or whatever. Like,
so from a storytelling standpoint, he managed to turn a bunch of slightly interconnected moments and scenes into an overarching story that you're like, oh, okay, that's how that fits. But also, and remember, this was came out in the 80s, I think, but this was written in the 1960s?
Probably, yeah.
60s, 70s, something like that.
Because like that's what I was going to get to, but I was like I wonder like how much of like changed from whenever like he tried to shop it around, couldn't get anybody to get it, to like, probably almost 20 years later, and then, just the change of people like, oh wait, no, this is actually kind of
Yeah, he had to write this in the 50s or 60s because he died in 69. But the story itself, besides being like ridiculously funny, it's the fact that every character is unlikable and you love them for it.
Yeah.
Other than like for me, like one or two characters that I just really despise, most of them are like, these are terrible people, but I like it.
You know what? You saying that just popped in my head. You know what it reminds me of? Always Sunny.
Yeah.
Like they're all the
terrible
worst human beings on the goddamn planet, but you like you said you love them for it. Like,
yeah, you love that they're just such shitty people.
Like if they were fucking good, you'd be like,
nah.
You'd be turned off. You'd be like, I don't like this anymore.
Well, the story, and I will go through the characters here. The story is led by what is arguably the most unlikable yet lovable protagonist in all of fiction. This character is written in such a way where you should hate them.
Yeah.
You should hate Ignatius J. Riley. Perfect fucking name for this fucking character, too. And even in the book, and maybe it was like a working name. I think it was like the hot dog vendor or somebody. It was like, oh, I thought you would have been like a Horace.
Yeah.
It was like the way he talks and stuff. So I'll go through the characters real quick just because there's so many of them. I actually found little biographies, so that works. Ignatius J. Riley is the son of Irene Riley and Mr. Riley. He is a 30-year-old self-styled philosopher and social commentator. Ignatius is well-educated, specializing in the medieval period during the university studies on, and then you can read a whole analysis. I got this from litcharts.com. So I'm not going to read the follow-ups and all the analysis on the characters. If we were a professional podcast, I would, because then we would break down the characters. I don't think that's necessary. Nobody wants to hear that from us.
No.
But Ignatius...
And we also just don't want to do it.
Yeah, so Ignatius is a morbidly obese, but also not just because he's fat, but just stature-wise and the way he dresses is very weird. He's imposing.
Yeah.
So no matter what he goes out and does, he stands out. He's the center of attention, even though he doesn't want to be. And he has a master's degree in like medieval philosophy / history or something like that. And it's weird because clearly this guy could do a lot of things with his degree, and especially at the time period, and just his intelligence, but he just flounders.
Well, he's also like, he's very smart, but he's also a fucking idiot somehow.
Yeah, I think it goes along with just social, maybe he's autistic.
Yeah, that's
social autism is like a thing too, where it's like, yeah, you could just be autistic, but you can also just like not. I think he's just autistic.
Yeah,
like he can't handle social situations, and the sex stuff is weird because he does not want sex. Like he's always jacking it or fucking gloves or doing, assault. At the end, he just keeps assaulting this glove in his room. I think it's the term used. But he's always jacking it. But the thing is, he doesn't want, like, there's this girl that he has correspondence with that just throws herself at him constantly and would fuck him anytime. And he's just like, ew. He does not want it. It's even alluded to, at least by her, that maybe he's gay or has some kind of problem with sexuality. I think it's just like he's autistic, doesn't want to be touched. And he's just like very isolated, just wants to stay in his room.
And then he sees like those like they're not porno films, but they're kind of they're like spicier films.
Well, he has this weird thing about perversion throughout the whole book. Yet he keeps going to these movies and all this stuff, and he's like, "Oh, it's so perverted." And it's like, why are you watching it?
Well, you know what? Then it kind of reminds me of like that trope of like the closeted gay guy that hates the gay. Like you know what I mean? Like so like how like that Mixie or whatever her name. What was Minx, yeah. Like how you said that she thought, well, maybe he was gay, like or something like that.
But he actually does go and has a because he always and like not necessarily impress her, but and we'll go into this more, but to I guess show off maybe or make her feel bad. He keeps trying to like set up these rallies and he's trying to make some kind of big political movement just to like shut her up. So he ends up having like this one political rally, but it ends up just being a house full of like gay men and lesbian, very violent lesbians too. And it's just like he's just trying to be so serious, but he's still like dressed like a pirate because he gets his hot dog uniform later on, and he's just dressed like a pirate most of the book. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But we'll continue with the characters first. Irene Riley. Oh, she starts off so like you feel bad for her,
right?
But then as the book goes on, you're like, she's just a fucking drunk.
She's just as bad.
She's just as bad. Irene Riley is the mother of Ignatius J. Riley and the widow of Mr. Riley. Irene is a well-meaning but easily flustered and somewhat shallow woman. She drinks too much and has an obsessive, again, read more. Yeah, she is definitely one of those, actually reminds me of some people I know in my own life who will not take, what's the word I'm looking for? It's what women don't do. She does not take accountability for her life and what happens to her. Yeah. Like at the beginning, the main catalyst for the story is she goes out with Ignatius. She's shopping like in a mall. A cop wrongfully accosts him. Yeah. A mongoloid, as Ignatius calls him throughout the book. There's this big ridiculous scene. They go on the lam real quick and they end up at a bar to hide out from the cops. Ignatius doesn't really drink, but obviously his mom does, you learn. She starts drinking at the bar. She gets drunk and drives home because Ignatius doesn't drive and wrecks multiple times in a very short period, and then it puts him in some kind of crazy debt and all this stuff. But again, it's like she blames Ignatius, she blames the cop, she just blames like anything but her. Like, you were drunk driving, lady. Yeah. And that her whole story arc is just she will not take accountability or for the fact that she raised Ignatius. Like, she blamed, he was such a good boy, and then at some point he just turned bad, and it's like, well, did you raise him right? You know? Mirna Minkoff, this is his minx. Mirna Minkoff is a political activist from New York and Ignatius' ex-girlfriend. Ignatius met Mirna at university, and although the pair immediately clashed and disliked each other, they formed an affair, platonic of sorts. Yeah, she keeps writing him letters, and she is one of those failed She reminds me of... what's her name? Jenny from Forrest Gump.
Oh, yeah.
Even the horror aspect, because she's constantly fucking everybody, apparently.
Well, I wasn't sure if that was that or that was just Ignatius's like thought that, you know what I mean?
No, in the letter, I don't know if she actually says she was having sex, but she kept doing like all these sex she was doing political protests and trying to open up everybody sexually. She was a hippie. Yeah. Essentially. So she kept trying to fuck Ignatius too for some gross reason. But she kept doing like all this weird, like every time she wrote him a letter, she was admonishing whatever he was doing and saying, you've been in your room. It just gets worse and worse as the book goes through. But then she's always like, oh, I'm doing a lecture and I'm doing this and that. But then he will call her out and be like, it's going to be a big failure. Yeah. You're a fucking, like, you're just stupid. This is a dumb idea. And then sure enough, it always fails. She keeps hooking up with these guys who she thinks are like how Jenny and Forrest Gump would hook up with, you know, all these political guys that are like anti-counterculture people or whatever. And it's like, oh, this is the one. But then they beat her or they treat her bad or it turns out they're just in it for the money. She keeps coming across guys like that. You don't feel bad for her either. She's just fucking, again, just self-made misery.
Well, that's another thing. Like, we're talking about like the terrible characters that you shouldn't like, but we like them. But then, but those are two, you like, terrible stuff's always happened to everybody. You also still don't necessarily feel bad for them either.
No,
like,
not at all.
So it's a very weird mixed emotions with the characters.
Well, like this one who probably has the worst out of most of the characters, Patrolman Mancuso.
Oh, God.
Patrolman Mancuso is a hapless and unsuccessful member of the New Orleans police force and an undercover agent. He is the nephew of Santa Badiglia and becomes friends with Ignatius's mother, Irene. And he is just, hapless is the word. The sergeants and stuff basically just want him to quit.
Yeah. They don't like him for no reason.
For no real reason other than he's kind of a bumbling idiot, I guess. But they keep putting him in these ridiculous fucking outfits. And then he ends up getting really sick because they put him on some kind of toilet duty.
Yeah, he has to just hide out in the toilet.
In like a bus bathroom or something. And he just like keeps dressing him up in these weird outfits. And he just gets beat up throughout the whole book. He gets beat up and accosted and just, it's fucking hilarious.
Dude, but at least by the end, he's the only one that kind of makes good because he gets the arrest.
Yeah, he's the one that kind of does what he's supposed to, but at the same time, he also is the reason this whole book takes off.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for, he's the one he's a little short Italian guy, I think, and he comes up and bothers Ignatius, who's just standing in like a mall or something, when his mom's shopping, and then there's a misunderstanding, and then everybody rallies around Ignatius, and this one old guy ends up taking the fall, which just comes up. I like how he brought that character later as Irene's suitor. You didn't expect that at the beginning. The fucking guy is just kind of a dickhead at the beginning, and then that's what puts Ignatius and his mother on the run, in which they go to the bar, which leads them to the drunk driving accident, which leads them into crazy debt. They have to pay for like a shop or something that they broke. Because it was like a side of a building, I think she ends up hitting or something. Right, like they have to pay the damages. Then that's what leads Ignatius to having to finally get a job. Because up till now, he's just been writing works that nobody reads. Just fucking madman scribbles, I guess. Which is also alluded to Kennedy at Toole's life. Because he felt like he was writing works of genius that nobody was reading. And that's what Ignatius feels like, but obviously to a more ridiculous degree. And his isn't fiction. It's just like, well, kind of fiction, because it's like these social commentaries, but a lot of it's just made up bullshit. Like, it's just his fucking mental fantasies. Lana Lee, this is one of the most egregious characters in the book. I did not like her. Lana Lee is the owner of the Night of Joy strip club and is thoroughly unpleasant and mercenary character. That's weird. Lana openly exploits her employees, Burma Jones and Darlene, and blatantly rips off. Again, I don't like that it doesn't, like, at least finish a thought. Like, you have to read the whole analysis, and I'm sure it takes you to a separate page. But yeah, she's a piece of shit who thinks she's running this high-end establishment that nobody goes to. That's the bar that Ignatius' mother takes him in when she gets her drinks, and they meet Darlene, who Ignatius tells this extremely boring bus story to, that he told his mother 4 times while they were sitting in the bar, and she's heard it 1,000,000 times, because that's the biggest event that happened in his life. Not going to school and getting his degree, but this shitty bus ride he had to like some other part of Louisiana.
And got sick on her.
Yeah, I forget if he was like going for like a job or more schooling or something, but yeah, he got sick, but he makes this big deal, and he makes
valve.
His valve keeps closing. Yeah, that's throughout the whole book. His valve keeps closing, and it's fucking. He gets sick, and he's always like, "Oh no, I will bloat." Like, you want a beer? I can't. I will bloat. And he's just a grotesque individual. And he's always gassy, and just I love it. Burma Jones is probably to me the most likable character. He is what we would refer to as the buggy guy of the book. Because, as those who don't know, Spencer and I, once upon a time, worked the shopping cart fields, for those who are not in the Pennsylvania area, buggy fields, we called them, of a Walmart. Yeah. We worked gathering shopping carts in our early 20s. That was our misspent youth. And it was terrible, and we just got saddled with all the work nobody would want to do. And Burma Jones is...
For the least amount of pay.
Yeah, the least amount of pay. And Burma Jones is a character who's written in like a stereotypical New Orleans black guy of the time. And you should be so offended by it because it's just like that's something you think you even modern sensibilities you'd be offended by, but somehow comes across as so authentic that you're just like, no, that's the character.
Yeah.
Like that's a person, which is weird because he's always going woo and like all this like ridiculous shit. Almost like
Tourette's?
No, not Tourette. Well, kind of like Tourette. But what were the fucking those over the top fucking shows they used to do where the white people would dress in the black face and I can't. My brain's not fucking functioning today. I didn't have enough coffee. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. I know people are listening know the fucking term, but minstrel shows. He talks like a minstrel show character,
right?
Like over the top, but like the actual way he talks seems authentic to like where he's from and everything. But it's just up a degree that's kind of over the top. But it's just that character. There's other black characters in this book that don't talk like that. So it's just him, and then it just kind of makes you like him more. I would be interested to see like what black readers of this book would, how they would feel about the character. But I thought the character actually does come across as genuine.
Yeah.
But anyway, Burma Jones is a black man who lives in New Orleans and who takes a job at the strip club the Night of Joy to avoid being arrested on vagrancy charges. What I liked is, and also don't like, but apparently back in the day, being a vagrant was a big deal. You couldn't just like how we got people that wander around town. They're not necessarily bums. Some of them have houses and stuff. Yeah. They just don't have a job or whatever. Like back then, especially if you were a black man, you couldn't just not have a job.
Right.
You had to do something or else you were a vagrant and they get you on vagrancy. Well, that's what happens to Burma Jones. He gets on vagrancy and they may like the cops actually do the decent thing for once, and I think they help him get like that job at the strip club, but he's getting paid under the minimum wage by that fucking awful lady. And it's weird because he like talks so much shit to her and just fucking is just an antagonistic asshole towards her all the time, and yet the lady never fires him.
Well, because he's cheap labor. She's always...
that's what she's going on about.
She's always protecting her interests.
But like at the same time...
Her investment.
Her investment, she calls it. But at the same time, she's always worried he's going to do something like, steal or do something bad. It's just, which he ends up... he gets the idea to sabotage the place, and he ends up using Ignatius.
Yeah.
Because Ignatius gets a job later on at a pants plant, and he cultivates this fucking rally of all the black workers, and then it goes completely awry, goes terrible. Ignatius gets fired, but Burma Jones finds out about that from one of his acquaintances, and then he's like, I need that motherfucker to fucking destroy it, because the problem is he can't just quit because then vagrancy charges again, I guess, or she'll turn him in for vagrancy. So he has to like find a way. He can't get fired either. He has to find a way for the place to get shut down, and then he ends up getting like a job with the police force, doesn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Like, I forget what they called it. It wasn't like a cop, but he ends up getting like a job with them, so it works out for him. Like, actually, everything mainly works out for most people, but the people you really don't want them to work out for. Darlene, we're going to speed this up a little. She's one of the strippers. She's the main stripper. She's the one who, on the cover, there's this fucking bird attacking Ignatius. She wants to be a stripper and have a bird act. She has like a pet parakeet or something.
Because her job was to kind of like talk up customers to get them to drink more.
Yeah, her job was to it was a commission-based job where she got people to buy these super watered-down drinks like whiskey, cocktails, and shit. And nobody fucking went in there anyway, so she wasn't making money. She wanted to be a stripper. Mr. Levi, Gus Levi, he is the owner of Levi Pants. He inherited from his dad. He has no desire to fucking be around the place. Says it gives him a headache. So the place is mostly unattended. Mr. Gonzalez is the office manager. He runs the place. When Ignatius gets hired and they're desperate for any employee, so they just hire Ignatius on the spot, he almost becomes subjugated to Ignatius.
Yeah.
Like Ignatius never works. He's so lazy. He's always like, I'm making a sign. And he's like making a medieval sign for the office and shit. And they're like, oh, he's working so hard. But he never does his filing or anything. But yeah, Mr. Levi, who ends up becoming the main part of the story, he has no desire to be a part of Levi Plants. Mrs. Levi is, my opinion, the most dislikable character. I hated her guts.
At least the most annoying.
Yeah. Ms. Levi is the wife of Mr. Levi and the mother of Susan and Sandra. Mrs. Levi mercilessly persecutes her husband. She's just like a bitch. Like, she's just constantly tearing her husband down, saying how great his father was and you ruined us. And she has this fucking, what is it, some kind of exercise board.
Yeah.
She's always on this he's always telling her to go on this exercise board. I'm picturing like some kind of wobbly board.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm gonna fucking throw it away. Like throughout the whole book, he just keeps talking about the exerciise board, and she's like, leave the exercise board out of this. I don't know why I thought that was so funny. It's just because they would keep having these bickering long conversations, and then every so often, it just something about the exercise board. Just leave the exercise board out of this.
Would that be like if you guys were getting in a fight and Mindy kept on bringing up like the bookshelves, and you'd be like, hey, whoa, hey.
Leave the bookshelves out of this.
They ain't do nothing.
Miss Trixie, I also really disliked because I thought she was annoying. Miss Trixie is an elderly employee of the Levi Pants Factory, which is owned by Mr. Levi. Miss Trixie is senile and is not a very effective employee. She's funny, but it's like a little too over the top for me. It's like, why are you like so feeble-minded? Like, because the thing is, she wants to retire, so I think she's putting it on a little bit about how dementia-esque she is. Mr. Levi won't fire her, and his wife won't let her retire. Like, Mr. Levi wants to retire her, the wife won't let him, and then she ends up taking the lady on. It's just like a fucking clusterfuck.
Gets her new teeth.
But then you do find out like she's integral to the plot. Like, she's the reason Ignatius so geniusly but accidentally was able to fix this big mess that he creates. Because Mr. Levi, due to Ignatius writing a letter on Mr. Levi's behalf to one of their customers, ends up getting sued for like what would now be like millions of dollars, but in the book it was like what, 500,000 or close to $1 million, something like that. But then they end up getting it, so Miss Trixie's the one who kind of takes the fall. Like, oh, she wrote the letter, and she's like, maybe I did. She doesn't know, and that works out because she has dementia or whatever. George is an adolescent boy. I was a little confused about the orphan kid. I thought it was a money racket of sorts, but then it turns out it was porno cards.
Yeah.
So this George character kept coming to the strip club, and the Lana Lee character, it was pictures of her. It was, I don't know if you got that, because it was very briefly stated, because early on they were talking about like her ass and stuff, and like how good a shape she was.
Okay.
I didn't realize, because in the pictures, when the Ignatius, he steals one, then finally you find out that the pictures, like, I don't think there's faces, it's just the body, but then you find out it's her.
Okay, yeah.
So I think she's taking the pictures, using the orphan to deal them to high schools. It was very weird, and I did not think that's where that was going. I thought it was going to be drugs, or because that's like a big part of the story. But he's an unlikable character too. He's a little fucking, I think he's a redhead too. Though Ignatius ends up fucking him over and making him work the hot dogs. Dorian Green is a young gay man who Ignatius and Irene meet in the night of the Joy Bar. Dorian Green is also, he's the one that has the gay political party. Super annoying to me, but also very accurate.
Yeah.
For like the kind of gay guy he was. And I was like, how did you write such a genuinely stereotypical, offensive but not offensive gay character? It's weird. Like, all the characters should be offensive,
especially like we said, at the time it was written, like that's before like openly gay, like, the stereotypical like over the top openly gay, like
that's the thing, and maybe it only works in New Orleans at the time, because there was all partying and shit. Like, there were so many gay characters in here, and you didn't get any bigotry. Really?
No, not really.
I mean, maybe the cops might have had a remark here or there or something, because I think the word like fairy was used a few times. And maybe like Ignatius kind of had, like, he wasn't a bigot. He might have said some offensive things.
I think it's just more of just like the sexual acts in general.
Yeah.
Like,
again, he was like all this thing about perversion.
Even if it, like, say if they weren't all gay, if they were just like
the same thing,
if they were just couples, how just, random, like,
he was just grossed out about sex. Yeah. But it was weird to read a story in this setting, because it was set in the 1960s. And you're reading about all these gay characters, and a lot of them came from California, because that's probably the only place they can get them from, New York or California. But it's like you're reading about all these characters and all these diverse characters, and not one of them is written in a way where you're like, oh, this is like, a slight against them.
Yeah.
So there's like no slights against the gay people, which is interesting to read for the time period. Santa Badegalia, she is a vivacious older woman and the aunt of Patrolman Mancuso. She befriends Irene, and they go bowling a lot. Claude Robin, I never can say these names. Robinchow.
Oh yeah,
that's the old guy.
Yeah.
At the beginning, he ends up getting arrested for standing up for Ignatius, and he's never been arrested before. He's arrested by Mancuso. Fast forward, he ends up having the hots for Irene. And then he finds out Mancuso's her friend, and there's this big scene. It's pretty funny. Mr. Clyde.
There's a lot of anti-communist stuff in it too. Like,
yeah,
because everybody's like, the old guy thinks that everybody's a commie, and
yeah. Mr. Clyde is probably the only one of maybe two characters who are just innocent and they aren't pieces of shit. He's the hot dog vendor for Paradise Vendors. Though even so, he's probably selling like an inferior product. And
then also too, you're also like.
He's running from his garage.
Yeah, I know, he talks about how bad he needs vendors, but it's like, when you have somebody like Ignatius and like, he does what he does and you continue to let him do it, you're kind of held accountable for that. Like, you know what I mean?
Ignatius just keeps eating the hot dogs.
Yeah.
And he gets even fatter throughout the book because he keeps eating the hot dogs. He barely sells any.
Then remember he tries to get the cat.
Yeah.
A stray cat and like put it in the hot dog thing.
He just does all kinds of stupid shit. Mr. Clyde, he's like, but again, you feel probably more bad for him than you would for others. But he's not the great. He keeps trying to stab Ignatius in the neck with a fork.
Well, I think at first, you're like, oh man, it sucks that this guy's just trying to give him a job. But again, as it goes forward and you see more, you're just, well, no, this guy's a fucking asshole too because he's just letting Ignatius do it still. Like, fire him. Like.
And also, the hot dog vendors in New Orleans, for some reason, are seen as almost vagrants.
Yeah.
Like, there's basically seen as, like, the old bums who would come up and wash your window for a nickel when you're in traffic. And like, get the fuck out of here. I don't want that. That's how the hot dog vendors were viewed in this book. Mr. Gonzalez is an employee of Mr. Levi. He's the office manager. He's probably, I would think, the most innocent character. I don't think he actually did anything of offense in the book, other than he doesn't really have a spine.
Yeah.
Again, he doesn't fucking he doesn't
make Mrs. Trixie to get away with not doing anything.
He's told to let her do that, but he doesn't like correct Ignatius ever.
No.
Or he doesn't. But he doesn't correct Ignatius for whatever reason. He doesn't do his job as a manager. He basically lets Ignatius take over. Mr. Zaltimo is hired by Mr. Gonzalez to replace Ignatius at Levi. He's just like a
idiot,
Frankenstein looking dude, I guess. I don't know. I do like I forget. Is it Trixie that calls him a gangster?
Yeah,
bites him.
Well, and then also Trixie thinks that Ignatius is Gloria.
Yeah. Speaking of Gloria, she's next. She's an employee at Levi Pants until Ignatius lies about her to get her fired. Dr. Tauk is a professor at the university which Ignatius attended. Dr. Tauk claims to be a specialist in English history, but is in fact a fraud and does not know his subject well. Ignatius wrote a scathing letter of sorts and caused this guy problems. Betty is an aggressive gay woman. So there was a bunch of very aggressive lesbians that were beating up people and caused Ignatius some trouble. Beat him up at the end, actually, and they all got arrested. And there's a whole list of minor characters we won't get into. That was longer than I anticipated. Like I said, there's a lot of fucking characters. And they're all fully well written for the most part. But yeah, without going into the whole story, I will say I thoroughly enjoyed it. The ending was just as absurd as the rest of it, I felt.
But in that way, worked, though.
It did work. It could have been wrapped up slightly better, but it's almost like Ignatius completely, like his character throughout the whole book, just fakes like, yeah, I've grown up, because he has to escape. I won't give it away, but he has to end up escaping. And even though the whole matter is resolved, the one time his mom finally stands up to him is the worst possible fucking time to do it. But his girlfriend lady, he ends up getting her, and they drive off together. And he acts like he's going to clean up his act, but he's not.
With his wet mustache.
His mustache, yeah. And after he spent a whole day just fucking a glove. Or multiple days, I forget. Very funny. Glove. I gave this book a 5 out of 5. I thought it was this is one of the few books I read where I actually was laughing out loud a lot.
We've talked about this off air. If they would do it again, or I want to see if it's online, but how we talked about there was a play where Nick Offerman played Ignatius. Like, I
would like to watch it.
Yeah.
I watched a couple scenes from it. It was pretty funny.
But even so, like if they did like a new run of that play and it was around here, like I would maybe check it out.
Yeah. So I will read to end this episode. We didn't really actually talk about the book thoroughly, but whatever.
Well, then in a way though too, like we talked about this too, like it's not very plot heavy.
No,
it's just like
it's character interactions.
Yeah,
I will read so you can get a feeling of Ignatius Riley for those who haven't read the book. I'll read some quotes from him after the fucking end of days alarm goes off.
I'll say, is it that or is that your neighbors?
No, that's the fire alarm. Woo. You know what? Fuck it. Fire alarm. I don't think it picks up too good on the mic anyway, but that'll be a backdrop. So, and he uses one of my all-time favorite words many times in this, so I'm reading this one first. Is my paranoia getting completely out of hand, or are you mongoloids really talking about me? I love that he just calls people mongoloids to their face so much.
Well, and then again, because of his size and stuff, people's not going to do anything.
No. The only one that actually stands up to him physically and like beats him up are the lesbians. Like, I don't think anybody else actually really threatens him like that too much. I mean, there's a couple. Well, the Clyde, he tries to stab him with a bunch of times with the dirty hot dog fork, but he doesn't. I don't think he actually does stab him. This one is just a general quote. You could tell by the way he talked, though, that he had gone to school a long time. That was probably what was wrong with him.
That was a good one.
There's so many quotes in this fucking book, man.
Well, that's why, like I said, it took me a little bit longer because, like, I felt like I kind of had to take my time reading it, or you'd miss like those little jokes like that.
Yeah. Another thing about it would be nice. This was actually a book I would reread again. But another thing about Ignatius' character is he always thinks he's better than everyone, maybe because of his education or just his intellect. So here's one some interaction with his mother. I doubt very seriously whether anyone will hire me. What do you mean, babe? You a fine boy with a good education. Employers sense in me a denial of their values. He rolled over onto his back. They fear me. I suspect that they can see that I am forced to function in a century I loathe. This was true even when I worked for the New Orleans Public Library. It's also funny because he speaks in such a grandiose way, whereas everyone else in this book, for the most part, speaks like his mom just did. What do you mean, babe? Just fucking ghetto, basically.
Like a dunce?
Yeah, like a dunce. Yeah, he's a bunch of dunces. I mingle with my peers or no one, and since I have no peers, I mingle with no one. So that's a line about the being isolated. The day before me is fraught with God knows what horrors. Oh, I like this one. It smells terrible in here. Well, what do you expect? The human body, when confined, produces certain odors which we tend to forget in this age of deodorants and other perversions. Actually, I find this atmosphere of this room rather comforting. Schiller needed the scent of apples rotting in his desk in order to write. I, too, have my needs. You may remember that Mark Twain preferred to lie supinely in bed while composing those rather dated and boring efforts which contemporary scholars try to prove meaningful. Venerations of Mark Twain is one of the roots of our current intellectual stalemate. He hated Mark Twain in this book.
Yeah, he was not a fan.
Which is funny.
Yeah, because he takes a couple jabs at him.
Yeah. Also, Fortuna, the fortune, is a big thing in this book about Ignatius' fortunes, and I think he fully believed, almost superstitiously, in fortune. So when Fortuna spins you downward, go out to a movie and get more out of life. Here's another one about his the way he views himself. Stop, I cried imploringly to my godlike mind. He thinks he's godlike. He thinks he's a genius. I want more mongoloid. My life is a rather grim one. One day I shall perhaps describe it to you in great detail. Here's just another view of his life and how he thinks of the world. Canned food is a perversion, Ignatius said. I suspect that it is ultimately very damaging to the soul. And also maybe his valve.
Well, and because he always seemed he always seems to be like very contradictory, like because even you see him flip sometimes throughout the book of making fun of the one thing, but then being just to whatever just just to be the opposite. It seems like sometimes he
contrarian. He also is one who lacks complete accountability for anything. He will not. Apparently, I lack some particular perversion which today's employer is seeking. Like, he can't just admit that. It's like, no, you're just a fucking ass.
Yeah.
We'll end on this one because it's another great one. I am at the moment writing a lengthy indictment against our century. When my brain begins to reel for my literary labors, I make an occasional cheese dip. It's just fucking so stupid. It's just like, I just picture like a Shakespeare or a Van Gogh or something, but instead of creating great works, they're just in the room being stupid.
Yeah.
They just fucking masturbating and stinking up the place.
Well, because that's what we say, with the title is so great because, Confederacy of Dunces. And then, because normally you would think Ignatius would be the only normal character surrounded by all these dunces. But not only is he surrounded by all these dunces, he is probably the biggest dunce.
He's the king of the dunces.
So, and I like that that play out.
Well, very rarely do you come across a work where a character is clearly a genius, but instead of being celebrated as a genius or shown to be some kind of above the dunces, as you will, above them, you go, well, this person's somehow worse.
Yeah.
It's like they're not accomplishing anything. It's wasted potential, which again, maybe John Kennedy Toole felt like, he's wasted potential, or he has the ability, but not the inclination. He's missing something that would allow him to step out of, and we'll use a quote, from the book, we'll use a little metaphor of like step out of his room and out of his isolation and actually face the world. John Kennedy Toole, I mean, he did a lot of stuff, like he's a professor and stuff, so he didn't have like, he wasn't like Ignatius in that regard, but I could still see like, well, why was the manuscript failing to, net a deal? Was it how he was going about it? Yeah, that's one thing we don't hear is like, how was he trying to sell this manuscript? How many times did he try?
Right, like was it once and then it was like they were like no, and he was just like, well, I'm done then.
Did he just send the book in with like here's a book I wrote, and like that's it? You don't know, like I don't know. So that could be a part of it. He could be like the Ignatius Riley in that regard, where it's like, yeah, you can write the great thing, but that doesn't mean anyone's going to read it because you're not actually doing anything that'll make people read it. And then that's where the accountability comes in. It's like, well, it's not my fault people don't understand my genius. Well, it could be because you're not explaining it in a way or sharing it in a way that they can understand. Because
especially back then when like you didn't have self-publishing or and stuff like that. You only have. Granted, there was probably more book publishers back then, but still, I'm sure it wasn't easy to try to get something published.
Exactly. We'll end on this. I refuse to look up. Optimism nauseates me. It is perverse. Since man's fall, his proper position in the universe has been one of misery. That's a pick-me-up.
Yeah.
So that was not really a review of Confederacy of Dunces, but I did really enjoy that book, and I recommend everyone read it. That's when I would actually do a follow-up episode in the future if we were able to come up with some more information and talk about the plot more. But again, it's not much of a plot, and the way how goofy it is, it's not really something you can actually like break down the scenes per se, but it's more like just the characters.
Well, we said it's very character driven, and because like in each chapter, the different set of characters each get their own section.
Yeah,
and then so like that's how the story progresses. For you see them in their own stories progress until eventually, like I said, it's almost kind of like that movie Crash when things kind of start interacting with each other.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and it's a fun way to write a story. But anyway, like I said, I gave that 5 out of 5 whiskey shots.
Yeah, I'd go 5 too.
If you enjoy what we do on this fine podcast, you can follow us at DPW Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can check out Spencer's OnlyFans this week. He is just loving some Labradors in Louisiana.
I'm rubbing some tummies.
Or are you loving Labradors from Louisiana?
I'm okay with either one.
Well, one, you gotta go down to Louisiana. The other, you don't.
Well, then I probably don't. Not that I don't want to go down to Louisiana. I just don't think I could fit it in the schedule at the moment.
Okay. Because you're too busy in your room attacking a glove.
Yeah.
I just love that. How it's like, it didn't talk about it too much, but it kept bringing it up.
Yeah.
About him. He's just, like, after, like, this big event, he just spends the day fucking attacking a glove. Like, he didn't say fucking the glove. He just said attacking the glove. And the bed was squeaking. His mom's like, what are you doing in there, boy? He just pictures this fucking morbidly obese guy just fucking a glove. Like, what the hell? If you want to check out my work, CalebJamesK.com, you can do that, and we'll check you next week with, I don't have an idea for the episode. I'll be on vacation, so when I come back...
Well, we should be up ahead, right?
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, just as far as what we're going to record, I don't know. But anyway, we'll check you out next week at some point.